Welcome, garden friends. Thanks so much for taking a little bit of time away from your garden to come visit mine. We're all busy, aren't we? But it's so much fun. So much fun to be out in the garden. And today is a very special day. The garlic is being harvested. I can't wait to show you that. I'm interested to see how big those heads are. And then we're going to plant something right away afterwards. Don't like to leave a bed fallow for too long. Always like to have something going. Even though we're at midsummer, there's still plenty of time to plant. Follow me. Well, if you don't know by now, I'm a garlic fanatic. You know, we get 5 harvests of garlic when you plant your own, and this is number 5. Number 1 is the greens. Number 2 is the seed head called the scape. Number 3 is when we leave the scape in the garden, the seed head actually gets bigger and makes little seeds. 4 is pulling garlic early, and now we're on to number 5. This is the harvest that's going to last us, hopefully, all the way through until next year. I've harvested from other beds here, but this was my best looking bed. I tried something different this year when I planted in here, and I used a compost called Coast of Maine. And I think it's made a big difference by looking at the size of the stems here. I think I'm gonna have some nice sized bulbs. Looking at this one I pulled, that's a nice one. You know, they don't get as big as they would if they're out in full sun, but this is one of the beds where I get pretty good sun. So there's nothing to this, especially when you've got it in nice soft compost like this. These will just pull out. If you had it in something that was a little tougher, you might have to get in there and loosen it up a little bit. But it's just about pulling it out and taking a look at them, and then we're gonna hang them up in the tool shed and let them cure for 3 weeks. These look pretty good. And it smells even better. Yeah, these are good. We're harvesting when about half of the foliage has turned brown. And it's time. I could have probably left them in here another week or so, but it's better to pull them early rather than late. They store better that way. When that white papery sheath around there is hugging tight, it's time to pull them. All right. Just a couple more. Oh, it smells like heaven. I gotta jump to the other side to get the rest of these, and I'm gonna tie them together and hang them up. Then we're gonna plant some beans in here. The best way to make this garlic last is the curing process and leaving these stems on for as long as you can. And so we hang this in a warm, dry place for about 3 weeks. They'll dry out, they'll cure, and hopefully will store for a year. You never know how long they'll store. The curing process, if it's outside, depending on how humid it is, every season's a little bit different. All right, let's get some beans planted in here, and I've got a cool variety too. This bed looks pretty good. It was improved in the fall, but another bag of compost is going to help these beans go nuts. So I'm going to spread this out and then show you the bean that we're going to be planting. Compost makes everything grow. That's all there is to it. This is a bean called Dragon's Tongue, and it's one of my favorites. It's a big flat bean with kind of a yellowish tint, but it has these beautiful purple stripes on it. I've planted them this late before and got a great harvest in maybe a little more than a month. And there's nothing to this, you know. I don't need all these bean seeds for what's in here, but I'm gonna throw them all in here anyway. And no rows. Actually, that's just too many. I don't want them to be that crowded. I guess I'm going to have another half packet of seeds in with the other 200 that I have in there. And we'll let them sprout, and we'll thin them out a little bit. And I have another bed back over there where I'm going to plant a different type of bean. I'd like to find a place for these. I'm going to have to look around. Maybe I'll do these in containers. We're going to do that, I think, in the next show, or maybe the one after that. All right, let me just rake these in. I'll put some water on them. And in this nice warm summer weather, they'll be sprouting in certainly less than a week. This will get these beans off to a good start. Let's plant the other variety next. Dragon's tongue beans from Kitchen Garden Seeds is one of my all-time favorites. But part of the fun of gardening is trying new things. And this is also from Kitchen Garden Seeds. This is a filet bean called Claudine. And where Dragon's tongue is 55, 60 days to maturity, this one's 45 days. So it's quicker. And we're doing the same thing here that we did over in that other bed. Throw them in, kind of scrape them along, rake them in. Again, I'm gonna have another half packet of seeds here, and then we'll put some water on them. That's all there is to it. Beans are one of the easiest things to grow. And as I said, we don't want these beds just to stay fallow. And actually, when the beans are done in the fall, we'll put something else in here right away. I wanted to talk a little bit about why we grow what we grow. Now that garlic that we harvested, that's for the whole family. My wife brought me into the world of garlic, and now there's no turning back, that's for sure. These cucumbers, you know, I'd probably grow cucumbers anyway, but my daughter just loves cucumbers, and so I'm planting those. And gosh, we put these in maybe a month ago, and they're already climbing. We're gonna pick that fruit in just a little bit, and I like to pick them when they're small. These are little pickling cucumbers, and once you start picking them, boy, they'll just keep coming and coming and coming until you have somebody on here you won't know what to do with them. But I just picked just a handful of raspberries for my wife because she just loves them. And even though it was just a little bit, I left those on the cutting board for her in the kitchen, and she was so excited to get that sort of nice treat from the garden. That's just what the garden's all about, growing things for people that you love. And that's what I enjoy doing. Let's get some cucumbers out of here. I could wait on that. It'll get twice as big, but like I said, they're awesome when they're little like this, and it'll just put on more and more cukes. Kind of hide down here. This will be another fun treat. Well, let's talk lilies. As we've talked in the last couple weeks, just as I'm obsessed with garlic, I'm obsessed with lilies. This one actually came from my old garden 25 years ago. And it was just a double that came up on its own from road lilies. And I moved it here with 2 truckloads of plants, and this is one of the only things I can remember that I brought. But over on the other side of the garden, I can smell it from here. There's 2 other lilies that are blooming, that are a different type, that are just smelling so great. Just a wonderful aroma. Come on, let's take a look. No aroma here. This is Casablanca, and we have a humid day today with just a little bit of breeze, and it is just spreading the aroma all over the garden. Next to it is one called Elena that I absolutely love. It's a double, and this guy is actually growing in a container and is doing really well. I'm surprised. I've really never grown any lilies in containers, so that might be an option for me in the future, but oh, I love my lilies. Now it's time for Talking Trees from the Davey Tree Expert Company. I'm joined by Rob Kruljac. He's an Assistant District Manager for the North Pittsburgh office of the Davey Tree Expert Company, and we are sitting on his 67 Bronco. I don't know what's more exciting, this cool vehicle, or we're going to talk all about fertilization. I think it's the vehicle.
I think it's the vehicle. Yeah.
Wait a minute. Come on. No, let's get serious here, then we'll talk cars, okay?
Sounds good, yeah.
You know, there's one thing people just don't think about fertilizing trees.
Yeah, and it's really important, Doug, because, you know, a tree growing in your lawn in your front yard, that's not its native environment. You know, that's not where it was meant to grow. We want to put those nutrients back into that environment for the tree. I mean, if we could just leave leaf litter and branches and things to decompose over time, you know, trees would do a lot better, but we want our lawns. So by supplementing and replacing some of those nutrients with a deep root fertilization, it really really bolsters the tree's own natural defense systems against insects and disease and decay and such.
I mean, you're talking any size tree you do this on? You do this big trees, small trees?
Big trees, small trees. When you get into smaller trees, you're usually doing several trees. You know, usually smaller trees in a planting bed, so you're doing all the trees and shrubs in that bed. If it were one singular, you know, specimen tree in a property, you know, would do all the underneath the drip line of it. So yes, any size, any tree or shrub can benefit from it.
And I guess it depends on the size of the tree, but how often are you doing this? Or I guess it depends on the health of the tree too, right?
Correct. Once a year, either in the spring or the fall. Typically, anytime the ground's soft enough that we can get this probe or this root feeder into the ground. You know, when it's hard pan dry like this, we're not fertilizing. But you know, those 2 times a year, we get a little bit of a damper condition when we get that probe.
So
in.
tell me how this all works.
So we take this product. We have our nitrogen, our phosphorus, and our potassium. We add this to a big tanker truck, a big water tank, where that product gets dissolved and suspended in that water, and then we put it through this root feeder, which goes down 8 to 10 inches into the critical root zone around the trees, where most of those feeding roots are. The nice thing about using the liquid is it really can penetrate the soil and the pores in the soil, and it also does some fragmentation of the soil for us as well, because we want pore space to hold water, to hold oxygen for the roots to absorb as well.
And is it done kind of around the drip line, or where does it go?
We do a pattern underneath the drip line like a grid. So every step, every pace, we'll insert the feeder, hold the trigger for 3 to 5 seconds, stop, take another step, 3 to 5 seconds, and so on around the entire, underneath the whole canopy of the tree.
So when Luke was here, he helped me with a rhododendron. I still have to fertilize it.
Mm-hmm.
I was just going to use the granular holly tone on there. When I sprinkle that on there, should I be watering that in, or will the rain do it, or?
I'd check the label, because different products, kind of have their own, design. You have the root feeder sticks, the fertilization sticks. Again, water is going to break all of those down, but some will say water them in or let the product do it on its own. That's why we like to do it with already suspended in a solution, because that way it's going into there already, broken apart and ready to go.
So at what point do we add this when we see a tree struggling, and how far can we go with this? It's not a magic bullet, right?
Exactly. This cannot bring a tree back from the dead, but if we see a tree starting to decline, or we know it's been disturbed in some way where it's already stressed, fertilizing can often help the tree recover and thrive after that.
All right, are we going for a ride?
Yeah, let's go for a ride.
Who's driving?
I think I'll have to, yes.
Thanks.
Yeah, no problem.
Boy, that was a lot of fun, wasn't it? It's always great to be in the garden, getting your hands dirty. Go to the comments section and let me know what you'd like me to cover in this series. I'd really like to hear from you, hear what you're thinking about in your garden. I'd like to know how your garden season's going. Until next week, keep planting, and we'll see you then. Of course, this means you're not going to be able to drive the Mustang.
What? How about next time?
Maybe.